Okay, good morning and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube, Iyun with Benzion. Today I want to talk about a famous statement of Rava. It appears in many Masechtas. He says in the middle of Nun Amenat Beis, before the Mishnah, Hektish Chametz Shichar Mafkim Yeshibud, to explain a steer in the Gemara, to explain a difficulty that the Gemara is having with the opinion of Shmuel. He says that Konamos, right, when you take a neder, one of the ways of saying a neder is to compare whatever you're offering. I'm offering this fruit, so I'm not going to eat oranges like a korban. So we'll have to get this in Masechtas Nedarim to explain how oranges become a korban. It means you can't bring oranges on the mizbeach, but in a certain sense, he gives them. They're stronger than kedushas damim. There's kedushas haguf and kedushas dam. Kedushas damim is basically what I say a nedava to the Beis Hamikdash. I'm donating something to the Beis Hamikdash where you're not responsible for achrayas. You're not responsible, like the Gemara in Megillah and Daf Ches. You're not responsible if it's nigno or nevda, if it gets lost or stolen. I don't have to replace it because I'm just giving a monetary donation to the Beis Hamikdash. I'm not neder alai. When you say lashon neder, right? That's alai, that you're accepting the obligation or responsibility, the achrayas. If it gets lost or stolen, I have to repay it. Meaning, when you can kedusha daman and dava, so basically you're giving the value to the Beis Hamikdash, but not the goof to the Beis Hamikdash. So if the goof is no longer present, you're not responsible. However, by neder, you're giving not only the reshus, the goof to the Beis Hamikdash, the goof, whatever you're doing. So if that goof is lost, it's your responsibility to replace it. Here also, konamos is kedushas haguf. That's what Rava says. Hekdesh is kedushas haguf in Rava's statement, as opposed to the case in our Gemara on the Mishnah where Yochanan Asandler talks about where a woman is makdish kedushas damim to the Beis Hamikdash Shamaisei Adayim, only the value. So that's a difference over here because the Gemara said previously that she's makdish her hands. Her hands belong to her. Her body belongs to her, right? The husband, when she's nichsel or shusas of the husband, he carries her over the threshold of the door, brings her to the canopy bed. He doesn't nisuin. She's nichsel or shuso, right? She comes in his reshus, in his domain. So a wife is in the reshus of her husband. Maybe her maisei adayim b'midaraisa belong to her husband. Her wages belong to her husband, but her body does not belong to her husband. Her body maybe is it becomes joined together with her ishtok gufo. Maybe we'll have to discuss that more, but at least she owns her body. Even when there's shutfas, when there's a partnership, each one owns 50%, or each one owns the whole thing together. So she still owns her body. So when she's makdir shayadayim, so that's kedushas haguf. Kedushas haguf, he only owns bershusa. So he's makdir haguf. So that's mafkim de shibud. Like the case of Rav is talking about an apotiki. Apotiki is when I borrow money from somebody else, and instead of saying, if I default on the loan, I'll give you this, which is a collateral, you say, I want you to collect on the due date in 30 days, or stam halvas for 30 days, I want you to collect from my animal, from my land, from my movable objects, whatever I have, my dining room table. You can collect that. You can take that in lieu of the payment for the loan. So that's apotiki. So when you make an apotiki, that's stronger than a mashkon, but a collateral, because you're literally giving reshus over the domain over. He's going to collect it in 30 days. It's mechusar go binding. He just has to wait 30 days to collect it. So it doesn't belong to him yet until 30 days, but it is in his reshus. However, when you do these things, kedushas haguf, one of them, when you're makdish the goof of something, so therefore that's mafkia midei shibud. It removes the lien because kedushas haguf does not belong to him; it belongs to you. So therefore, you're taking control of it. The shalo is a stronger ownership than the bershuso, and therefore, when you're makdish something, it's mafkia midei shibud. Chametz and shikra also are like that. Also, right, by shikra, the eved is owned by you. The master owns the shalo, and even if you set up the eved to be a apotiki to collect the loan, only the bershuso would belong to the creditor, but not the shalo, and therefore when you're mashachar him, you own his body, really, the eved kanaini. So therefore, it's mafkim de yeshiva, and the same thing with chametz also. When it comes chametz, the Torah took chametz out of your bilas. It took the shalo out of your bilas. It also took the Rashuso, but the Gemara says a curious language that it put the Rashuso to be over alav on Bal Yira and Bal Yimatze. But anyway, the point is, in all three cases, the Shalo is removed, or you're in control of the Shalo, and you are removing the Shalo from the Shibud, and that's why it's okay the Shibud. That's just a deeper explanation of the statement of Rava, if you didn't understand it during my regular shir. Hope you enjoyed today's shir. See you in the next one.